Hi, my name is Dennis Leaflang, and I am going to do a video today about some very uninteresting stuff, but I'm just grabbing any excuse. Well, it's not true. It's going to be interesting, but just trying to grab any excuse to just distract myself and you from this whole coronavirus thing, because it's getting a little silly, and I think we could all use some distraction. And especially if you're sitting home all day, you know, every 5 minutes that I could contribute to you not being bored or stressed out, you know, that's a bonus, including myself, you know, trying to keep myself occupied here too. So I decided to do a little bit of a series about some of the gear that I have at my studio. You know, some of the gear that I really love, and the first one will be about a snare drum. Now, the thing with my snare drums is I love each and every one of the snare drums I have. There used to be a time where I owned a ridiculous amount of snare drums, shelves full of them. I was more of a hoarder or a collector at that time, while, you know, at least half of those drums I wasn't actually really using. You know, I would buy them, you know, explore them for a couple days, and then they would end up on the shelf. So at this point, I kind of have a policy: if I don't use a snare drum for a couple months, I'm going to really consider selling it, or at least ask myself why I am not using it. So basically, the snare drums I do have right now, which, you know, it fluctuates. I'm always buying and selling, but it's, you know, gotten a lot less with the selling, at least. I think I have about 17 or somewhere between 17 and 20 snare drums at this point. So the one which we're going to talk about today is this one, which I used on a session a few days ago, and I posted a video about it, and I got a few compliments about the snare drum. People were asking me what it was. Now, this is that is a China, a 14-inch China that wants to be in the video. But anyway, this is about, oh, I hope this focuses. Anyway, it is a TAMA SLP Classic Maple. Now, the story behind me buying this drum is that in, I think it was 2018, at the London Drum Show, Simon Phillips did a performance, and I've always been a big fan of Simon Phillips and his snare sound. I love how his sound is always wide open, and he gets away with it, which a lot of drummers don't, especially these days with the muffled sounds being so hip. Ever since the 90s, I've always loved that wide open crack that he gets out of his snare drums. But this snare drum in particular, as soon as I hit play on that video, he actually solos on it with the snares off for a little while, which, you know, sounds good and everything. But then once the snare wires come on, that snare drum is just ridiculous. So I had no idea what drum it was, so I basically just went online, and because it was a natural finish, I figured, okay, let me look for TAMA Maple snare, see what I find. And I found this guy, and immediately, as soon as I saw it, I paused the videos and compared whatever pictures I could find of the drum, and clearly it's this drum. You can actually also see the hoops, which the hoops are, in this case, hope you can see this. They are what TAMA calls sound arc or arch hoops, which are basically just copies of the old Slingerland stick saver hoops, so that it kind of, you know, angles inward at the top, which definitely adds to the tone and the crack on this drum. So since I found it online, I figured I buy it, because it wasn't an expensive drum either. I think these guys are about $300 maybe. I do think that after I got it and I recommended it to a few more friends, I think it was either back ordered or maybe even discontinued, but I'm not positive. But at some point it turned out to be kind of hard to find. But anyway, I'm just checking because I did a video earlier where my stuff crapped out. This is all just, oh yeah, we're all running still good. All right, so So I bought it, and it was delivered quick, and I opened it up. I actually took the box to a rehearsal, and opened it up there. And as soon as I put this drum on the kit, it just sounded identical. It had that tone, that same tone as the Simon Phillips video. So, which is, you know, I mean, you're taking a bit of a gamble because, first of all, I am not Simon Phillips, so I'm not going to be able to make a drum sound like him. And then when you buy something, it's always, you know, there's so many factors involved: the room, how it was mixed, you know, how he plays it, the heads he uses, how he tunes it. But there was just such a very specific tone about that drum that I really was hoping would be in the drum that I would buy, and it's totally there. That tone is totally there. If you listen back to that video I posted a few days ago, you can hear it. It comes through, and it definitely has the same. You know, I don't have it tuned exactly the same as Simon Phillips. I'm not using the exact same heads, but it's the same drum for sure. So yeah, I'm super happy with this drum. I play it a lot. I tend to, so if you have talked to me about snare drums, you probably know that I am all about brass and aluminum snare drums. Pretty much all the other drums I have are brass and aluminum. I only have a few wooden drums, and this is the very first wooden snare drum I have purchased in my career, my life, that I really, really love. For some reason, most wooden snare drums, I just don't love them. You know, that some of them sound cool. I've had some really high-end, boutique wooden snare drums that I just, they sounded cool, but I didn't love them, and I ended up selling them. But this thing, and especially for the money, it's kind of hilarious that this thing is only about $300. But it's really, it's a TAMA, it's a really well-made drum. The bearing edges are flawless. You can't find anything about it that's not perfect, as far as just the construction and the finish on it. And so the heads I have on here now, this is an older Power Center reverse dot, which I should really swap out, but it still sounds good. And then the bottom is still the stock TAMA head, which is a Snare Side 300. And then I have half a drum tack on there. So this is still tuned the way it was on that video the other day. And I'll show you how that sounds, and then I'll also tune it up and down a little bit so you can get an idea of what it can do. So here we go. Just has a tone, not overtones that are annoying or anything. That half a drum tech doesn't really do much. It's just, it has a ton of character and vibe, and it's pretty incredible for a brand new drum that's not an expensive drum, that has somewhat basic generic specs. On paper, this would never be a drum I'd buy, but once you hear it, it's a different story. So this is somewhere, mid-high, medium-high. It's not cranked, but it's definitely up there. So let's go down. And I'll show you a little trick too. This is a 10 lug. Generally, I like 8 lugs better because they tend to stay in tune better. This guy stays in tune really well though. So the way I do it, I use the opposite, keys if I can. So since this is 10 lugs, that would be 5 pairs. So what I do is I do these two, then clockwise I skip a lug, and that's 2. Skip another one, sorry, that would be here, it's 3. Skip another one, 4, and another one 5. That way you know that you did all of them. Let's just check. It's not perfect, but just to give you an idea. So this is it a little bit lower. Wow, butterfingers. But anyway. Yeah. It makes you want to play it too, you know? So when you go lower like this, you get a little bit more of that tone. But plenty of fatness. It never sounds weak, and it retains its full body. A lot of wooden snare drums, I find that when you leave the top head open, or fairly open, and it's a single ply and you go way down, it tends to just have a nasty ring to it and not really sound very pleasant with most wooden drums anyway. You know, you could definitely go even lower than this. At that point you probably have to add some muffling because it'll sound a little flabby. But let's go up, way up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now this is way up there. Not perfect, but close enough. It's just funky as hell, man. So anyway, that's this guy. Love it. Worth every penny. Probably will never get rid of it. So yeah, that'll be the first of sort of a series on gear. I'll have to come up with a snappy name. By the time I post this, I'll probably have a name for it that I'll put in the title. You know, name for the series. There'll be cymbals in there. Definitely want to talk about these hats that I really love. And if there's anything you've ever seen in any of my videos that you're curious about, wow, rain's coming down real hard. I mean, for me to hear it on this roof, that means it's coming down pretty hard. If there's anything you saw in any videos that you are curious about, definitely let me know. I'm happy to do a video on something that that you want to know about, which, you know, ultimately would be great if you're actually, you know, getting some subjects that you're interested in. Yeah, there'll be more probably this week and next week, since I am not really traveling anywhere. There's no shows anywhere to go to, so I am recording at my studio for various clients, but in between I can definitely do some more videos. And yeah, let me know what you want me to do next, and otherwise I'll pick something. There's plenty of stuff I can talk about. And other than that, wash your hands, stay healthy, and I'll see you again very soon.